you guys can hear me. So something that you said, Representative Bailey, I think is interesting. So having worked on, as lots of you have, I think, some of the levies recently, the local option levies and the bonds and whatnot. So I think what I heard you say was that some of the changes might be to make it easier for us either to, with fixing compression, so that if we vote for a levy, we can keep all of our. Sorry, okay, sorry about that. My question, I guess, is I'm concerned about local option levies being a solution, and I'm not an expert. I don't want to say they're not a solution, and I'm concerned about them for a number of reasons. One, we have to go to the voters all the time to ask for it, which to me isn't the right answer.
Right.
I don't think. We ask them for a lot of things, and that pits them, as we did this year, pits them against the libraries and everything else.
Yep.
And then when we go to them for a bond, which is the only place we can go for a bond, they're pooped.
Yep.
And they say, sorry, we did that last year, didn't we? Is that a bond or a levy or what? Like they just keep getting asked. And my third, I guess, when I think about state equity, how does that work? I mean, I know local jurisdictions need to have, you know, if they want to tax themselves more, does that make sense? They can, but then what happens to the folks who don't? And then we have inequities across the state. I just wonder if you could talk a little bit more about why that's the direction.
That's a really good question. So, without getting too far down the rabbit hole of a wonky revenue discussion, I'll try to outline some of the principles that I think we're working on here. One, I think the equity issue is a real issue, but there are ways to structure those proposals, whether it's a certain percent goes to a common fund or something like that, that are ways to address the equity issue. I think part of the challenge right now, and is a legacy from 5 and 50, when it passed from Multnomah County voters, part of the argument that was made around 5 and 50 was, hey, this is a way to get more money into your schools and a way to be more equitable by shifting the responsibility from locally funded schools to a state general fund funded system. And what's happened since then, and the numbers are very clear actually, you can see them, the change in the mid-90s, you move to a system where you now have public education funded heavily through the general fund, where it's in direct competition with rising healthcare costs that are not just, that are just a factor of the cost that everybody's paying for insurance going up. The private market has nothing to do with government. With Measure 11 and mandatory minimum sentencing, and those are real trade-offs within the budget that have been eating, because there are locked-in rising costs, it's been eating into the education share. In addition, you end up sort of getting this lowest common denominator kind of approach with budgeting, because, just to be frank, not every place wants to fund education in the same way and prioritizes it in the same way. I don't believe that solely locally funded schools are the answer, necessarily. And I don't think it's fair to keep going back vote after vote to people to say, hey, pony up again on this. But I do think it's really important that for communities that really value a strong public education system, that they not be held back. And that when they do take the strong vote to be able to do that, when they do, nobody here is swimming in money, right? It hurts to fund education through these local option levies, but this community's been willing to do it over and over again. And if you're going to do it, you should get the bang for your buck out of it, and everybody should pay in that equally in the community that votes for it. And that's what these measures would do, in addition to being able to provide more revenue for schools.